Hi there, welcome to another In the Arena. I'm Jason, this is Kim, and this week we celebrated International Women's Day, so we're describing this as International Women's Week.
And it's Women's History Month.
And it's Women's History Month. And you went to a great event. And
I did. I mean, there's some amazing events all around the world that were happening on Tuesday, which was great. And one of the things that really struck us was, as it relates back to In the Arena and having business, is really business has so much ability to affect change for women in the workforce. So one of the statistics that really shocked me was from Parenthood, and they were saying that in Australia we're the number one globally ranked country for educating women. Number one, that's incredible. I mean, I had no idea, and I think we should be so proud of that fact. Juxtaposed against that though, after women graduate, we are number 70th in the world for women in the workforce. So that is a ridiculous disconnect. And what that shows is it's not necessarily lack of education or lack of intent or interest or passion or skills. It's the structures that are in place, which we've already kind of talked about in some of these episodes, go against women, especially women who want to have children. So as companies, whether it's a small startup or a bigger organization, we wanted to just take a second to say, what can companies do to create an environment that's conducive to keeping women in the workforce and men, allowing them to have that parenting time that makes sense for them, and also looking at the culture that we create that is supportive of women and everyone, of course, being productive at work. So do you want to jump on the...
Yeah, I mean, I think for us at G'd Up is what we tried to do, and it was born out of necessity because we started when we had a 2-year-old and were pregnant, was we had to get some kind of a childcare setup going, and we started with someone coming to the house, which was also an office, but then we built out a fully functioning childcare centre, and it was a big undertaking, but it was brilliant.
That's an understatement.
But particularly in the US, I think only the US and New Guinea are the only two countries that don't have some form of paid maternity leave. And so to offer potential employees the opportunity to use our on-site childcare centre, two things. One is it's on-site, so it's solving the triangle problem of you wake up in the morning, you get your little one set, you go to childcare centre A, then you got to drive to work and then do this whole business.
And coordinating schedules and stuff. Although it worked really well for us for a number of years, but that's kind of a big investment and commitment that lots of startups or companies might not be able to do. But it's just around having respect for where parents are at, that this moment in time is really tricky and there's a lot of demands on people. It's not forever, but especially in those early years, you kind of need to cut people some slack, and you look at it and say, the talents that they bring, the cultural asset that they are, well beyond just the to-do list ticking, do they add value? And if they do, then support them through this time. So that can be flexible working hours. Feeling supported. It's one thing to say, sure, you can work whatever hours you want, or you can work from home. But then if they don't feel supported in that,
if there's an undercurrent that new mum, we won't get much out of her, that's the end. And so the role and the opportunity for leaders in business, big and small, is to eradicate that unspoken thing and absolutely champion these family policies, and from the leader down, like the leader taking his paternity leave or the leader taking her maternity leave is where we need to go. And I think you've run into very successful female executives in the US that they got successful in a way because they kind of put on the male kind of persona. And so, a leader of a large soft drink company had 3 children, 4 nannies and a stay-at-home husband.
Yeah, which didn't, I think people older than me, so I'm,
45,
32.
30s. Yeah.
It was a different time for them, but I think as we look at young parents coming into the workforce, how do we support them in a way, both men and women again, to say Steve, go pick up your child who's sick at daycare, or go and watch your, daughters play at 3:15. Because you can come back and get that work done at any stage, and we all know that now. So I think that flexibility and really truly that legitimate support and showing it from the top down really helps. I think there's other things too. So part of it is of course structures, and in Australia there's lots around the way our superannuation works, the way our childcare centres work, and the cost of childcare. So there's a lot of structural things that we can't control, or that we don't have immediate control over. We can with the way we vote, etc. But there's also, in addition to that, just after this lunch that we had the other day, hearing women engineers talk about how one young woman was saying, only 3 years in, and most of the women she knew who were in engineering at university have already left the field because the culture was so toxic for them. It was so uncomfortable when they got into the workforce that they didn't stay.
Yeah.
And that's appalling. So again, that's all on leaders, men or women, to make sure that regardless of gender or race or background, and I think one of the other things that came up was socioeconomics, hearing that there was a lawyer who actually left the field. She was in she was a human rights law, incredibly brilliant young woman, and she said, yeah, there was this like snobbiness about what suburb you're from, you know, what area you're from, and that you're somehow less worthy. So it's just like, oh my gosh, there's all of these toxic issues within company cultures that business has the ability to fix. We don't need laws, we don't need money to do any of that stuff. That's just culture changes.
Yeah.
So it was just a really good reminder that we have so much power as
business owners. To create, you know, it's the water we swim in. That's what culture really is. And if you get that right, then you have a thriving, prosperous business. Because as we know, all companies are a collection of people going after the same goal, and it really is, if the people are happy, the whole thing can be very successful. And if they're not, you're going to have attrition, which is expensive, and from a cultural standpoint, you're going to have half the population feeling totally disenfranchised, which is sort of our situation right now.
Yeah.
So the call to action today, folks, is don't do that. Lead.
Yeah. Well, diversity, equity, inclusion, I mean, the fact that's now actually a thing, right? Along with UN SDGs, it's like suddenly we're getting broader in our thinking about how we think about business. So that's all good.
Great. Look, have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week. See you.